Do you really need a corrector, or is a concealer enough? Here's the truth, not everyone needs a corrector. Using too much can actually make your under eyes look heavier, and it could also cause creasing. Now, that's normal actually, especially for deep set eyes. The trick is using less product and better placement. Watch my YouTube video if you want to learn how to get started. Okay, so let's start talking about correctors. Correctors fixes colors. You would have seen correctors in many different colors. The most common ones are orange, a dark peach, and a light peach. This is all that you normally would need. In case of severe redness, then you could use something like a green corrector. So there are green, yellow, peach, um, purple, yeah, brown, and dark peach kind of characters. So if you buy a palette like this, you will get that. Otherwise, you can just buy liquid characters that are available in the market. LA Girl has some good ones. So is House of Makeup. So characters, as I was saying, fixes colors. So if you have very dark black spots or gray spots, any particularly redness, in your skin, in your face, you can use to fix it. Maybe some bruises. All this can be fixed, should be fixed with a corrector only. What are concealers then? So it's not just discoloration in your face, right? None of our faces are evenly toned, I would say. I mean, some of you might have most even toned skin, but most of us, especially brown skinned women, have, the browns are not evenly deposited in our face, because of which it could be dark in some places, it could be light in some places, while for some it sits in such a manner that it acts as a natural contour to their face. For some, this the skin tone might be not evenly placed. So in such cases, you have to use a concealer. So concealer basically makes your skin look more even, and so does the foundation. So if you have really mild spots, then you might need only a concealer, right? Or maybe even the foundation is enough to cover that, darkness. But what will normally happen is that if you use only the foundation, there could be a chance of grayness once it oxidizes, and that's where you can actually, fix it with a corrector or a concealer for that matter. um, when we say concealer, in such cases we always mean two shades like, darker than your skin tone. All right, so that is something to keep in mind. Now, to talk about the right order to apply. So if you're using the corrector, then corrector is the first thing that should go to your skin right after the primer. After corrector, it could be the concealer or the foundation, and then following up on, if you're applying foundation after the corrector, then might need to use a concealer or might not. If you are applying concealer after applying corrector, you might or might not need the foundation. So it all depends on how you are, applying your makeup. Makeup is very flexible. It all depends on how you need it, right? So there are only some very small rules that you need to follow. So in my personal experience, concealer works either ways. Before or after foundation does not really matter, but corrector always needs to be placed right in the start. Let me make sure to tell you one thing. No matter whatever you apply, if you have wrinkles and fine lines around your eyes, it is bound to crease. All right, you can reduce it with using eye serums and, many other techniques, but it will still show up when you smile. See, it will. Just that, it will be a little more even toned. So in camera, you might not see this much. On face, you might feel that, okay, this is a bit, much. And if you sweat, the creasing will come. But this is very natural, especially for deep set eyes. So in summers, I normally don't use or try to minimize the use of concealers as much as possible, I would say. And this is where now I'll be showing you 3 different techniques on how to apply corrector and concealer. Technique number 1 is thin layer. As shared earlier, I have both a cream concealer corrector palette and liquid. So let us use a liquid for this task. The key here is that you have to mix the concealer and the corrector together and apply a very thin layer. So I'll show how that is. Take a bit of corrector in the back of your hand. You can see that this is already peach, but as I said earlier, I have very little dark spots, so I'm using very little amount of that, and I'm going to even lighten it using the concealer. So let's see, when we mix we might feel that we need it to be a bit more, yeah, maybe a little more of the concealer. Yeah. So your brush is very nicely coated with it, and I have taken the excess out. Now you just need to apply it lightly, take it towards the inner corner. I'm not taking it too close to the lash line. I'm going to leave it as it is. Very lightly, using a light hand, I'm just buffing the product in. Same way with my spots here. You might think that this is not even seen, but that's all you need. You don't need too much product. This will be enough to conceal all the, and then I take it over a little over my eyes because my eyes are dark and it needs correction. Inner corner of the eye. See, very fluffy brush. That's the key. Yeah, and I'm doing this side of the face so that I can show both the techniques. Over my smile lines, I'm going to take a bit of that. See, it's already dried, so that's how drying these products are. So these are the areas where I might be graying out. Today the natural light is a little less, so I hope this is clear enough. I always film in natural light because, hey, we need to show what it is. You can clearly see the difference on the side that I've done and the side that I've not done. And this looks more evened out. I can actually just apply the foundation on top of it and call it a day. Now let us use technique number 2. Technique number 2 is layering. So for this I'm taking a cream palette here. I have this NYX cream palette which has a lot of colors. I will explain more about correctors in another video if you need, but let's not complicate things here. So I'm using a peach corrector. So there are almost two peach shades, one light and one a little more neutral. I'm using this color because I think that goes well with my skin tone. Again, that is something that you need to decide. And this is a very creamy product, but you need to warm it up a bit before you use. And now because this is summer, I don't need to warm it up too much. In winter season this is very difficult to warm, so I normally use liquid. Anyway, I take very little amount, as you see. Alright, and then I lightly dab it using my fingers, and you can see a black spot here or a dark gray spot here, so I go lightly over that. This you see is a little more brightening because this is a little more lighter color of peach. I could use a dark peach, but I'm using my fingers here. So first you apply the corrector, that's the step, because here the corrector and concealer is not together. So that is why you are seeing first corrector. It is kind of neutralizing the dark spots that you see. A little here, maybe, right? Dab, 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 dab. Yeah, and then a little over the eyelids also, so that, again, this is a little difficult to blend with fingers. So what I use is, sometimes I use a sponge like this, a wet sponge, which is a little dirty right now, but it will do the job. Sorry, I need a closer mirror for this, so let me take my mirror. Yeah, a wet sponge should be good enough to do the job. So I'm applying the corrector only in that area because I think I can use a concealer in the other areas. So after this is done, then you need to set this with a powder. So I'm using mineral powder here. This is white in color. Don't be scared because it's white. You could use a regular compact powder also for this. So just use a fluffy brush, tap off the excess, okay, and then lightly dab it on wherever you put the corrector. You know what, the steps actually helps in even the other side where I had just mixed the liquid concealer and the corrector. So yeah, you need to set this with the powder. You could also use a setting spray. I don't want to complicate things. You might have a compact always with you, so just use that. So in this layering method, there are two ways of layering. First we apply the corrector, then we can apply a thin layer of concealer, and then on top of it we can go with the foundation. The second technique is second method in the technique number 2, that is layering, is that you can apply the corrector first, then the foundation, and only if you need a concealer you need to use it. So that is also one way to go. Right now I'm going to, because I've already applied the corrector and set it with a powder, I'm going to go all over the top of it with a concealer. Here I'm choosing another palette that I have. This is from MAC. And I am going with a lighter shade of concealer because I don't know, this might be too dark, but again, mixing it. Sometimes you just need to decide which is your color. Not sometimes, always, but I'm just taking it so that, so this I'm mind you, I'm applying it on top of the corrector that is already set with the powder. Alright, so this is what is called as layering. The problem here is that there is a high chance of you using or ending up using more product than needed. So that is why you need to be very careful about layering, unless and until you're sure that you know how to really blend the product. I wouldn't recommend layering to a lot of folks. So my personal favorite method, as I shared, is the technique number 1, that is to mix the concealer and the corrector and apply. So this I have applied the concealer. Alright, I blended it well. I don't need to go over it with a sponge, but now I will again allow it to set either with a setting spray or a compact powder. Anything is fine. And then now that I have covered my base, maybe keep the base as it is and go ahead with the rest of the makeup. So you might have noticed that I've left this area uncovered because I wanted to show you third technique. Now this technique might be unique, not many chances that you would have heard it. It's called a bronzer hack. Bronzer hack, yes, bronzer hack does not mean you need to use a bronzer, but the idea is to use a warm toned concealer itself, or you could use in this palette, say I use this one, right? So any warm toned concealer is also fine, or proper bronzer, because you need a little dark color for this. So dark colored concealer will also work, a bronzer will also work. It's kind of the same idea, and that I can use it as a corrector instead of buying a corrector which could be either peach or orange. So these are my next dark spot areas I have. You can use it under the eyes in the same way that I used. If you see, this trick is very neat. It conceals very, very effectively, and you don't need to use another concealer on top of it. Just takes away the discoloration very effectively. You can see the difference already. So I have applied a little more product than I intended to, but see, that's intentional because I wanted to show you that if you end up applying too much product when you're using this corrector on concealer, always have a wet sponge in hand and you can just use it and go over it. So what it will do is, if there are any excess product, it will just suck it out. So yes, your product will be used more than intended to, but this will make sure that your product is taken out. So as you see, already my skin looks evened out, though there is a little pinkish tinge here because I have used the corrector concealer version, ratio in that format, so that I can cover it with the foundation. In this case, you see, I might not even need a foundation here. So once you do this, you just need to go over this with a foundation and you are set. Hi, so I just wanted to give you an update. This is evening now, 6:30 p.m. I applied this makeup at around 11 a.m. in the morning, and till now I have not noticed any grey patches. So that's the benefit of using corrector. I thought I should show you just a quick peek into how it will look if you wear it in the morning. Thank you. So the moral of the story is, the goal is not zero creasing. It is a smooth, bright under eye.